instead of always meditating, I like to sit on a swing that I have in the house that looks outside the front yard and have my coffee there, and then just kind of like think, or sometimes I just drink like water or something, just like hydrating and getting my morning going. It's just always nice to look at the sun and watch it come up, because it's really pretty here. There's a swing in the back that's kind of like a couch in the backyard where I go back there, and that's where I practice more meditation when all my 300 dogs aren't out there. That's where I go to meditate there. Literally, I sit there and just try to erase my brain, and I do it just 5 to 10 minutes, and it makes the whole difference with how the whole day unfolds. Is just sitting there and meditating and just taking that time to reconnect with your body and your mind. This one probably isn't helpful for anybody, but I turn on Schitt's Creek and just decompress. I binge Schitt's Creek over and over and over. Like, I know way too much.
How many times have you seen it?
The whole series, I've probably seen, I would say, about 8 times.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
even when I'm working, it's in the background, like, just to, like, it's that comfort, you know, like, there's nothing's gonna happen that you're not gonna expect. And like with my ADHD, routine is like really important. So whenever I need to focus, I just put Schitt's Creek on and get a little laugh every now and then. Yeah, that's usually when I binge, because I like binge, not food, but like binge on the TV and watch Big Bang or Schitt's Creek, because it puts me in that world. So I don't work, I kind of set it aside. I don't look at my social media. I actually go days without like looking at social media, and sometimes my phone, which isn't good for work, but I went to a facility and they took it away from me for 30 days, best 30 days of my life. I went to Sierra Tucson, and it was a great program. It was the first time I've ever done that, so it was scary at first, and they taught me a lot of things, and they re-diagnosed me. I went in thinking I was bipolar, and I have really bad insomnia. Like, I have a hard time sleeping. And so when I went in there, I was on multiple medications, one to counter the other, to counter the other, to counter the other. And I felt something was just like not right with my body. I was out of whack. I wasn't communicating properly, you know, and I took a lot of medication to try to go to sleep, and I was wide awake, and I looked at my husband and I said, this isn't right. So I went there for 30 days, and they re-diagnosed me with ADHD and trauma, like undealt with trauma. So tried EMDR, somatic experiences, and then group therapy, which is really hard for me, because then I want to like help everybody in the room, and I forget that I'm there to help myself. And which I think is the point. Like, you kind of want to help other people, and you get to support them. So yeah, it was the best thing I've ever done. And there's been days that I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back, but you know, I get through it, and it's from utilizing the tools that they gave me. I was diagnosed bipolar in my early 20s, and we tried all different types of medication. I immersed myself into bipolar to understand it, and then to try to restructure my mind and rewire my mind of how to take that diagnosis and make myself better. So I spent about 20 years on different types of medication, and one of the last ones they put me on was an anti-seizure medication. Mm-hmm. And that medication, when I went into perimenopause, started causing seizures because my body was like changing hormonally. So we had to get off of that, and that's when it got into a very dangerous like cocktail of medication. They were trying to calm me down, but I really didn't have a lot. I didn't feel like I had a lot of the symptoms of bipolar, but whenever I would try to, like, I would have mania if that makes sense. And sometimes I miss the mania. Like, I understand when people say they don't want to be on medication because of the mania, because you get so much done, and then you have those periods where you get nothing done. And I know it's a dangerous place, so it's like I'm not encouraging to embrace it, but I'm just being honest with like how I understand that mentality. But for me, medication has saved my life. Yeah. And so I'm definitely pro medication. And then when I got there to the facility, they detoxed me off of everything, and just had me on a vitamin regimen, and put me on a safer sleeping medication. And they just did a lot of testing, and then by the time I was ready to leave, it was determined that I was ADHD, and they did all kinds of stuff I can't even explain. When I found out that I was ADHD and not bipolar, I definitely went into a little bit of a depression, because I had spent 20 years getting down bipolar symptoms, getting down how to better myself, and then I felt like I had to take all that and then restructure it again to do ADHD. Like, I spent a week on a bullet journal, like trying to like learn bullet journaling, and because I was like hyper focusing once they started putting me on the ADHD medication. And so I was disappointed but relieved at the same time, because I feel like ADHD has a little bit more manageable like tactics that you can also incorporate without medication. And and when you do medication, it's always something you have to stay on top of. But it was with the bipolar, that's why nothing worked, for me. And I was a little bummed. Yeah, I take Ritalin for my ADHD right now, and it's been great. While it was actually going on, I was fine. It was very strange. Even when they told me I had 2 days and I was in the hospital, I was okay. I was like, I'm just gonna do what they tell me to do and just put it in their hands. And I was just lucky. I got amazing doctors and nurses. I had this one nurse, he was so amazing. He did the night shift, and he goes, I don't see you dancing. And he would make me get up, and I'm like crawling to the bathroom basically. And he goes, do me some dances. Like, you're not looking happy. And so I was lucky that I have like high-spirited people around me, and the doctors were so like giving and so concerned with me. And in 8 days, they said I was like kind of a miracle that I came back. Like, one doctor, when I did a follow-up, said, I'm surprised you're still around. Like, they did not think it was gonna work. And it happened to be the same doctor who saved my daughter's life with her kidney transplant. So we owe him a lot. But when I came home and I went to my room to quarantine, that's when it hit me, because I was like, I may not have ever come back here in this place, and my room is like my safe zone. It's always like, it's consistent. It's where I go to get away from the noise and the chaos that runs around in the house. And so it really kind of hit me then. And for the longest, I had like a little bit of guilt, because I knew people that were passing away from it. And then I was lucky enough to get a room at Cedars, and I was just like, I felt unfair. I definitely am still dealing with small bouts of like depression and like survivor's guilt. Whenever I hear something that happens, to other people, it's just like, you always think, why did I survive? I guess I'm meant to do something. So after 13 Reasons Why, I was offered a lot of different opportunities to do like a book, or to do another kind of project, or to do something, and nothing really felt organically right for me. So I never kind of took up those offers. Well, me and Selena had a interview with Daniela Pearson, who runs the Newsette, and she did a great interview, and in that interview, me and Selena were on really good terms, and there was nothing weird, but we felt so close on that interview, and we were saying things about the relationship that I think we knew, but we just never have spoken about. And by the end of it, it just felt very therapeutic, the interview. And we got to talking to Daniela on like more personal terms. I did. And then she's like, look, I really want to do something in mental health space. I had OCD since I was like 6 years old and never told anybody. And then, you know, she was one that was surprised that Selena was so open with her mental health. So then we just kind of started brainstorming of like, how can we do something really great? And then we just started coming up with like all these ideas. And we're like, you know what? There's no ecosystem out there whatsoever for mental health. It's like some people have apps, and then some people, you know, just kind of post, which is great because some of the posts are great. But we felt there's also a lot of toxic positivity out there. And so how could we bring reality to the world and then feel and try to create this culture, a culture around that not really being your superpower, but being, I like to say, your co-star. So like you're the star, and then whatever you have is your co-star, because I think it makes you who you are, and it can be some of the most beautiful moments in your life, some of the most traumatic moments in your life, but if you embrace it and you learn how to work with it, I think it just gives you something like really powerful. There's a huge stigma for me, and definitely Hollywood, because my daughter was an actress, and you're automatically pegged a stage mom, and I do have resting bitch face. So whenever I'm like listening, everybody thinks I'm judging the hell out of them, and I'm really not. I'm just like, I'm focusing, I'm really solid here, like please understand, I'm not angry at you. And I've always been open, even when I had bipolar, before we were doing anything with it. It's like, oh, I have bipolar. I wasn't ashamed of it, but I do feel, I was oddly more ashamed with ADHD because it's diagnosed and it's labeled as a learning disability. It's not actually a mental health diagnosis. So I did with ADHD. I was like, oh, that's why I'm so stupid. I really beat myself up. That's why I have to have everything so organized. I feel there's judgment still, and insecurity of if you're capable of living a great life. And you can go on my Instagram and see that I'm on there, like, you know, yesterday I posted, because that's how I felt, and I want everybody to know that anybody feels that way. So I've just always been an open book that can get me in trouble. Yes, being a good mom. That stresses the hell out of me, because it doesn't really, the harder you try, I think the harder it is for your kids to really open up to you. And my husband calls me a very liberal parent, because like my daughter watches Schitt's Creek and she's 8, and I'm just like, well, I mean, that's kind of reality, and she kind of needs to see that. But you know, we've had conversations about things through TV, which is one of the reasons why we did 13 Reasons Why as a mother and a daughter, to encourage parents to talk about it and watch it with their kids. But yeah, being a mom anyways is tough, and then you bring in the LA lifestyle of a celebrity, it gets really distorted. And you know, so I always try to do the right thing, and sometimes I think I try so hard that I do the wrong thing, and so then there's a problem. So that really stresses me out. Yeah, and not wanting to give your kid your ADHD. Like, you know, I'm always just like looking at my younger one going, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't like curse her with it. But, you know, she's amazing and very bright and smart, so I'm not too worried about her. But it's just, you do feel that kind of guilt.
Yeah.
In my room. In interviews. See, I was gonna say my Ritalin, but
that's great. I would say my antidepressant. So
yeah, my Ritalin gets me going. I think my body language is a little disconnected to what I'm actually thinking usually. all the time.